This is Lisa from Mobile Tech Review, and it's Smackdown time. We have the Acer Switch Alpha 12. Gosh, enough words in that name, right? This is a new kid on the block that's a Surface Pro 4 clone, which is what I have in this hand. This is considerably less expensive. There must be some differences between them. We're going to find out what they are now. As the latest Surface Pro 4 clone on the block, the Acer Switch Alpha 12 has the most in common with the Surface Pro 4, and like Surface Pro 4, it's powerful. Both of these are available with Intel Core i5 and i7 CPUs. Well, with the Surface Pro 4, you could go down to a Core M3 if you wanted to. So there's a little bit more variety in the line there. But I think for most folks who are buying a Surface, or many, the interesting thing is being able to get Ultrabook level performance in something that's still what you could call a convertible tablet. They're both 12-inch size class, 12.3-inch pixel sense display for the Surface Pro 4, or 12-inch IPS display on the Acer. They're both really bright. You can see that right here. And well, color gamut is higher on Surface Pro 4. I think you can see that with this picture right here. Particularly, notice the warm tones and the amount of saturation there and the gradation of colors. So a little bit higher color gamut. We're talking 100% of sRGB and 75% of Adobe RGB on Surface Pro 4 versus 89% of sRGB and 66% of Adobe RGB on the Acer. You know, given the Acer's significantly lower price tag, it's about $750, including keyboard, for the Core i5 with 8 gigs of RAM and a 256 gig SSD. And that same thing is going to cost you more like $12.99 on Surface, and that's not including the keyboard, too, for the same configuration. So it's fair, and that's not that much of a drop in gamut. The real difference you're going to see here is the fact that the white point is too high on the Acer in terms of temperature and degrees of Kelvin, and that is why the warm tones are kind of disappearing, but the blue tones are accentuated there. So for those of you who are going to buy this for professional graphics work where absolute color accuracy counts, it's much easier to get the Surface Pro 4 calibrated correctly. In fact, out of the box, it's almost exactly dead on. It's a Photoshop artist's dream. But again, the Acer is pretty darn nice looking, as you can see here, even though it has 570:1 contrast ratio versus 1080:1 on the Surface Pro 4. It still looks pretty contrasty and good. And we have 376 nits of maximum brightness on the Acer versus 387 on Surface Pro 4 as measured by our Spider 4 Pro colorimeter. So, you know, it's not bad, unless you really are a professional graphics person where that last bit of color accuracy is going to count. Are you really noticing that lack of warm tones on the Acer? It's a pretty good display. The keyboards on these are really very close in experience. I mean, Acer did quite a job of copying almost completely the Surface keyboard there. They work the same. They both have the same two-position magnet going on, so you can have it flat on the desk if you want, or you can have it go up. They both have good travel, around 1.4 millimeters of key travel, great tactile feel, backlighting. Single stage on the Acer, though, but still, they're both really nice to type on. The Surface wins for a somewhat better trackpad here. It's really a very good trackpad. But the Acer's isn't bad. It's serviceable. It's not at all a problem child. Now, one thing to note with Surface Pro 4, it's by definition a Microsoft signature device. There is no bloatware on there, and since Microsoft owns the OS, they can give you the Windows 10 Pro Edition versus Home, which for most people who aren't logging onto domains and stuff like that isn't going to matter, but it's clean. There's no extra junk. Therefore, even with the same hardware, and it does help, it has a faster PCIe SSD versus a SATA SSD. Again, that's where your money's going in these. Still, the comparable Microsoft Surface benchmarks a little bit quicker. It's not a huge difference, but that's also in part because look at all these icons here. Now, some of that stuff is some art programs I've installed and some colorimeter software and benchmarks, but Acer still puts a lot of bloatware on, and that is going to affect performance. So after you get it, you're probably going to spend a lot of time uninstalling a lot of the AC utilities, except for the Acer Update tool, which is important to have, and wild tangent games, all that kind of junk on there just needs to go. Now, both of these work with an active digital pen. That means palm rejection, pressure sensitivity, all that sort of good stuff. And Microsoft Surface Pro 4 always comes with a pen in the box. Acer has a bunch of different SKUs. They always do. It's always confusing. You look at a product and there's 10 SKUs, at least 7 of which seem to be in some ways identical. Anyway, the one we have is the Costco bundle, and that includes the pen. Costco is a big warehouse goods dealer for those of you who are not in the United States. If you have to buy it separately, it's $50. And as you can see, these guys look very similar. They're different technologies. So Acer is using Synaptics, and N-Trig is what Microsoft's using. In fact, Microsoft bought N-Trig, the Digitizer digital pen company there. They both use a quadruple A pen that should last you for like 6 months or so. Synaptics used to have a problem with draining the pen battery, but that seems to have gone away. The pen now goes to sleep, in fact, and you have to click a button to kind of wake it up if you haven't been using it in a while. The N-Trig pen is much better. It has much greater pressure sensitivity, and you're talking 256 levels versus 1,000. If you're doing artwork, it's noticeable. If you're doing note-taking, it's less important there. But the tracking, and if you watch our reviews of both of these, you'll see how smooth and silky the Surface Pro 4 is, and the Acer is okay. It's not terrible. It's fine for note-taking. There's a little bit of lag sometimes if you write small and fast. But when it comes to art, if you're going to use this for art, I would say get Surface Pro 4 because you're going to get more creamy, kind of natural flowing lines. You're going to get better pressure sensitivity, and you're going to get less latency, which has nothing to do with the CPU here. It's the Digitizer performance. If you draw fast, sketch fast, you're going to notice it lagging behind a little bit. Now, both of these have programmable buttons. There's no Bluetooth in the Synaptics pen, though, which is mostly used just to launch OneNote on the Surface Pro 4. But they both have an eraser function, and this is how it should be done. It's nice and smooth and soft, and it looks kind of like an eraser. This one here is that cut-off diamond cut finish here, and I just worry about these edges on the screen. You know, I suppose I don't know why they did that, honestly. I would just be afraid that's going to scrape against the screen. Now for biometric security, the Surface Pro 4 has both Windows Hello facial recognition from the front camera, and if you get the more expensive type cover, you can get a fingerprint scanner too. So you got 2 ways of doing it there. The Acer does not have either of those. You're going to type in your password or your PIN, whichever it is you've chosen. So if biometrics are important to you, I think mostly for people who get used to having it on Surface Pro 4 and Surface Book, it's when you switch to something else that you kind of like, oh my goodness, you mean I have to actually do something besides smile at the screen? Speaking of those cameras, 5 megapixel up front for the Surface Pro 4, 8 megapixel on the rear, and they're pretty good cameras actually. Skype footage looks really very nice. 2 megapixel on the front for the Acer Switch Alpha 12 and 5 megapixel on the back. They're both kind of noisy and grainy and meh. Lastly, there's battery life. Both of these come with a 45-watt charger, which is the same wattage that you would get for a 13-inch Ultrabook laptop. And battery life is noticeably better on the Surface Pro 4, which is funny, you know, sometimes people pick on Surface Pro 4, like wish they could have better battery life, that sort of thing, but it can average with productivity work and some streaming video. You can manage 6.5, 7 hours on it or so with 40% brightness, and given how bright that display is, wow, you know. The Acer is more like a 5-hour tablet, and that's with the auto brightness on, which keeps the brightness, you know, in check there because it too is a very bright display. But if you turn off auto brightness and you set it to 40%, just like on the Surface Pro 4, even streaming something like Netflix video, which is usually highly optimized these days under Windows 10 and with the Intel Core platform, still it's about a 5-hour and 15-minute experience or so. And that's using MS Edge rather than Chrome for the web browser, since Chrome does consume a lot more battery power. Now in terms of size and weight, you're looking at just about the same thing. The Acer is a little bit thicker, mostly at the bottom because of the kickstand. There's about 80 grams or 3 ounces that sets them apart, so it's pretty close. Now the Kickstand R2 takes on the same general idea right here, so I like the rubbery edge on this so it doesn't dig into your legs or scratch your furniture, but the surface is a bit stiffer. It's a little bit better if you do art. Once again, this keeps coming up as the better one for art because it will stay firm enough if you put it on the table like this that you actually can draw on it, you can put some weight on it, and then, you know, it has its maximum position like that. This one too has a maximum where it locks in, and you can see the angles are not that different, but a little bit better in terms of firmness. Neither of these is awesome on your legs, but I get by with either of them. Again, if you wear shorts, this one's going to hurt a little bit more, that's all, the surface. Now here's something where Acer really just steps ahead, and they've done something very cool. We have liquid cooling inside here, and it actually works. It doesn't do thermal throttling any more than Surface Pro 4 does. So if you always like the Core i5 and i7 on the Surface Pro 3 or 4, but you couldn't stand the noise, though to be fair, for those of you who use Surface Pro 3 and haven't tried Surface Pro 4, Surface Pro 4 has gotten a lot quieter, but we have these little air vents all around here. This has a fan. You will hear it if you work it hard. This one has no fan. It's going to stay silent. If you work either of these hard, they're going to get pretty toasty on their metal backs. So that's going to happen, but there you go. Points for silence for those of you who care about that. Since we have these covers showing here again, one point I'd like to make is Surface comes with a bunch of different colors. That's not the most important thing probably when you're considering spending $400 more or not on one tablet over the other, but the Acer is picking up dirt like crazy already. I don't think it's going to be as rugged and robust a faux suede finish, much as they tried to copy what Microsoft did here. I think there have to be price concessions somewhere, and this picks up dirt like your average 3-year-old. It just, yeah, gets dirty. Only black, but given the fact that it does seem to pick up dirt and marks, well, that's probably a good thing. It would be terrible in white, wouldn't it, with something like that going on? So there you have it, the Acer Switch Alpha 12 and the Surface Pro 4. About $400 potentially sets these apart depending on the configurations you're interested in buying. Now, a Surface Pro 4 does come in an even higher end Core i7 with faster Intel Iris graphics. This one stops at the regular Core i7-6500U. For those of you who are looking for the absolute maximum horsepower, if that's you, then it would have to be Surface Pro 4. But otherwise, if you save your $400, you're actually going to get a pretty good product that runs just as quickly, has a pretty nice display, but obviously the money's going to go somewhere. With this one, you get the more frou-frou fancy design. For one thing, you get better battery life. You get a better display, though. The Acer does not have a bad display on board. You get biometric login here. And I think most importantly, for those of you who are graphics arts people, the color accuracy of the Surface Pro 4 display is going to make a difference, and it has a better pen experience, too. Both of these are fine for note-taking, even casual doodling, though I find it slightly discouraging if I see pen latency when I'm doing artwork, but I'm a pretty quick sketcher. So if it's art, then probably Surface Pro 4 for you. If you just want a note-taking, I'm going back to school, cool machine, and you don't want to spend money if you don't have to, the Acer is certainly worth a look. I'm Lisa from Mobile Tech Review. Be sure to watch our video reviews of each of these products, read our written reviews, and subscribe to our YouTube channel for more cool tech videos.